A catastrophe is unfolding in Iran, but authorities are not addressing it. Iran is facing one of the worst droughts in its recorded history, as a significant decrease in annual rainfall is forcing the authorities to restrict water supplies across the country. In fact, as of today, all the reservoirs have been emptied, and that's why even in Tehran there is often no water in the taps. Moreover, officials have warned that drinking water is running out, as the amount of water coming from the dams to Tehran province is decreasing. This Middle Eastern megacity with nearly 15 million people has a water supply less than half of last year's levels. The situation has worsened as the water level dropped to critical levels, making pumping nearly impossible. That means there is still some water left in the reservoirs, but it's no longer possible to pump it out. And all of this is happening against the backdrop of new threats from Donald Trump to launch bomb strikes against Iran if it doesn't agree to a nuclear deal. But most importantly, people in Tehran are starting to realize that the money they invested in the nuclear program, in the ballistic missile and drone programs, could have been spent on infrastructure projects. Because it turned out that after the water shortage, problems with electricity also began. And the Iranian authorities don't understand what to do about this in the near future. My name is Alexei Pechi. Today is July 29th. Let's discuss this topic together because there are a lot of hidden pitfalls, as they say. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, leave any comment, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel. The link to it is in the description of this video. Iran has finally acknowledged it. Currently, Tehran province and the country's capital are experiencing the worst drought in centuries. And the water reserves, due to years of drought and low rainfall, have dropped to the lowest level ever recorded. In fact, Tehran is facing a total collapse due to the lack of water. According to the Iranian news agency, Islamic Republic News Agency, the supply of water to reservoirs throughout the region has been stopped. On Monday, Iran's Minister of Energy Abbas Ali-Abadi stated that all 31 provinces of Iran, except for one, are literally experiencing a water shortage. As consecutive annual droughts put additional strain on the utility infrastructure, which is already under heavy load, once again there is practically no water and their utility infrastructure is under increased stress. Next, I will quote Ali-Abadi. "We hope that with improved weather conditions we won't have to resort to water rationing." He's being dishonest, as water rationing, where water is supplied for only a few hours daily, is already happening. According to experts, Iran is increasingly suffering from water shortages and a severe water crisis as a result of decades of uncontrolled industrial development, climate change, and devastating sanctions. And the water shortage has also coincided with a tense standoff with the United States over the Islamic Republic's nuclear program, which the Trump administration dismantled last month. Over the past year, Iran has also faced serious fuel supply problems, which have led to scheduled power outages in many industries. As has only now become known, a week ago the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, issued a stern warning at a cabinet meeting, citing a report from the Ministry of Energy that showed the crisis was more serious than had been publicly acknowledged. The Iranian government has already declared a state of emergency in Tehran province as the country struggles with a severe water shortage and an energy crisis, exacerbated by a sharp rise in temperatures that has pushed the country's aging infrastructure to its limits. Interestingly, the authorities in Tehran, for example, are declaring unscheduled public holidays, quoting the ongoing extreme heat and the need to conserve water and electricity. The whole problem here is that neighboring countries, for example, are coping just fine with high temperatures, even though they're experiencing exactly the same drought. Everything is fine in the neighboring countries. But the problem with Iran is that it has worn out energy and water supply systems that simply can no longer cope with critical situations. And just a week ago, at a closed meeting of the Iranian Cabinet of Ministers, President Pezeshkian admitted, quote, "The water crisis is much more serious than is being discussed today. And if we don't take urgent measures now, in the future we will face a situation for which there will be no solution." In the water sector, in addition to management and planning, We also need to address the problem of excessive consumption in this serious situation. It is becoming increasingly obvious, especially as water outages are spreading across Iran, particularly in Tehran, amid growing reports of what residents are calling silent rationing. However, officials deny these claims, explaining the disruptions as simply a drop in system pressure. He says, no, we are not doing any water shutoffs, we are not doing any rationing. It's just that the pressure in the system drops and you don't get water. But the pressure in the system doesn't just drop for no reason. Last week, Minister of Energy Abbas Ali-Abadi released a worrying forecast, warning that the country's critical reservoirs could completely dry up within a few weeks. The minister said that the Islamic Republic will start active negotiations with neighboring countries to import water, so that at least water can be brought in by tankers from there. Tehran's water utility announced that the current water reserves in the capital's main dams have dropped to their lowest level in a century, and they admit that the reservoirs have almost completely dried up. Officials cite an unprecedented 5-year drought combined with record low rainfall as the main reasons. As a result, the province is facing the most severe water shortage in the past 60 years. It's important to note that, according to the World Resources Institute, Iran ranks 14th in the world for baseline water stress. And commentators are increasingly discussing the potential so-called day zero when water supplies could be completely depleted. And there's nothing you can do about it. That is day zero, when there's no water left. There's nothing you can do, you just have to leave the area. Experts say this day is approaching rapidly in Iran. But the whole paradox is that, according to the same institute, the active expansion of dam construction in Iran has worsened the water crisis in the country, not alleviated it. The plan was to construct numerous dams and reservoirs to increase water supply, but things turned out completely differently. From 2012 to 2018, the number of dams in Iran more than doubled. 647. Many of them were built without proper environmental assessment and often for political or military reasons. As a result, this disrupted the natural water supply and the water simply started to leave this region. Moreover, due to the construction of underground military facilities in Iran over the past 20 years, the groundwater level in Tehran has dropped by 12 meters, which has led to ground subsidence. And it also put the stability of the city's infrastructure at risk. Serious infrastructure problems have also led to preventable water losses. It is estimated that up to 25% of water in Tehran is lost due to leaky pipes and improper management of utilities. For example, it is officially known that the volume of the Latian Dam, located near Tehran, has sharply decreased from 95 million cubic meters to just 9 million. And this data is from a week ago. Now there is even less water there. And so, realizing the scale of the problem, Pezeshkian emphasized that solving the water crisis in Iran requires a fundamental change in the national strategy. Speaking at a government academic symposium dedicated to sustainable water management, he emphasized that water scarcity is not a temporary issue, but a long-term national problem. Next is a quote from Pezeshkian: "The crisis cannot be solved by isolated projects. We need consistent efforts based on 5 key principles: integrated management of water resources, soil and agricultural techniques, effective education, incentive policies, strict legal measures against violations, and ongoing assessment and monitoring." That's why I recalled at the start of the episode, it's paradoxical, as the countries neighboring Iran also face drought and lack heavy rains, yet they managed to handle the situation. And this crisis has attracted international attention, including a sharp reaction from Israel's Minister of Energy, Eli Cohen, who posted a message on social media addressed directly to the Iranian people. I'll quote it for you. "I see your suffering and I know that you don't even have enough drinking water. That's because your repressive regime, instead of investing in providing drinking water, wasted the water resources, including on the failed nuclear program, which has now been consigned to the dustbin of history. Instead of meeting the needs of the Iranian people, they spend resources on terrorist cells in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, and the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Israel has managed to overcome water shortages, and thanks to our knowledge and innovation, we now have abundant water resources, which we even export to our neighbors. I am addressing the Iranian people. On the day this repressive regime is overthrown, your lives will become much better, and you will also be able to benefit from Israel's water technologies. That's the situation. As you can see, in Tehran they tried to keep this quiet, claiming that they were practically still at war with the United States of America. In other words, they were diverting all the attention there. It turned out there was a huge, truly huge problem with the water supply. And all this leads to the fact that if nothing is done, this region could simply reach 0 day when there will be no water left at all. Experts are now raising concerns, stating that the current trend is discouraging. I'll leave it at that. Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe, hit the bell, and like the video. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. Bye, everyone. Subtitles created by